Hello and welcome. I'm Rus Mohammed, and you're watching an exclusive interview for Somaliland National Television's English section with Andy Corpet from USA and Mustafa Hassan, who worked closely with Andy. First of all, Andy, when did you first hear about Somaliland, and what are the information you have about Somaliland?
Well, it was approximately 4 years ago when Mustafa and I were working in Kuwait for the U.S. Air Force, and he addressed the issue with me of going to Somaliland to work. And I had never heard of Somaliland, to be honest. So he and I spoke further about various security issues, so I started doing some research on it. And then the more I learned, the more interested I became. So after we had left Kuwait, we started working in Afghanistan, and then we pursued that even further and started more seriously talking of coming here, because we'd really like to come here and help this country, because the love in his heart for the country is so great. It's infectious, so you want to come and help him as much as we can.
Good. What's the first impression you had about Somaliland when you came?
I was amazed at the friendliness and the peacefulness of the entire region. When we came, the people are just absolutely fantastic. Every place you go, it's a friendly face and a warm smile. I felt welcome every place I've been, every store, every street, the hotel, the waiter staff, everyone. They're just extremely friendly.
What are the activities you're involved in that also involve Somaliland?
With my background with the U.S. military, the Air Force, I was involved with a lot of the physical security and such. So Mustafa and I had spoken of possibly coming here to try to address issues that could help the government, because they're on such a positive path. We just want to try to help enhance what efforts they've already put forth.
That's right. How do you see the freedom of speech in Somaliland comparing to Sudan and all the African countries you've already seen?
I think here it's probably the best. Having been in the Sudan, I was in South Sudan, the El Fasher region. During their civil war, I was there with the U.S. State Department contract. And working there was no freedom of speech at all. Matter of fact, the refugee camps that I went through, they were essentially a prison, because the people couldn't leave or speak out based on the rebels in the region. So as a result, you come here as an up-and-coming country, fledgling democracy. Everything is a positive. People have the opportunity to voice their opinions, and they can be heard, and that's the most important thing.
You and Mustafa work closely with each other. Mustafa, when was the first time you two met, and what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, we met in 2000, I think it was 2010, and I was his supervisor in Air Force Base in Kuwait, Al Asalim Air Base. And the first day he came to work, we clicked, and after that we started talking about Somalia, East Africa, all Africa, Europe, and Somaliland, and he was very, very interested about Somaliland, Mr. Andy Corpet. So that's how we started.
Mr. Andy, what do you think of Somaliland's multi-party democracy? And do you think it's negative?
Well, I like the parties only because it's very similar to what we have in the United States. It offers the opportunity for all the different factions to actually voice their opinions, hopefully hammer out their differences and come out with what's best for the people. Now, the negatives of that are you have some from the parties that may not currently be in office, and they in fact will try to undermine or sabotage the efforts of the government. That doesn't help anyone except for themselves, because it hurts the people of Somaliland. They have to look at the future and what is best for the country. If they were to undermine any aspects or any efforts to improve on the day-to-day life of the citizenship, they're only hurting themselves, because it puts themselves in a negative light of the voting people.
That's right. Do you think the freedom of speech in Somaliland is as standard as, the countries like the one you came from?
Yes, I do, very much so. I think here it's more so than in a lot of the countries I've been through out the Middle East, to include some in Africa, primarily the South Sudan area. I don't think the freedom of speech is really allowed there, whereas here you actually can speak to anyone you'd like to about any issue, and you can actually have an honest conversation with pro and con. That's very important.
That's good. Mustafa, you are a Somalilander,
Yes,
and you've never seen Somaliland before this time.
yes.
So how does it feel to be in your country for the first time?
You know, I'm so lucky to be here with Andy. Me and Andy will be talking about Somaliland last 4 years. And I heard a lot of things about Somaliland, good or bad. But the good thing, I have to see my own eyes. The good thing I see Somaliland was that when I landed, it's different. Everything I heard in Europe, Middle East, and the United States, and the press, and I have to see my own. And what I see last 7 days is compelling. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and beautiful system. And I see the press running to Mansour Hotel, running to this, saying everything. You know, it's different.
Definitely. So you two have been here for 7 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about your experience in the city. You definitely went out and saw the people and everything. How was it?
It's lighthearted in the sense that we pull up to the various police checkpoints or military checkpoints, and we turn on the interior lights, and the officers will see me in the back, and it's like our friend is my personal driver, and he's my bodyguard, and they're saluting me. Why? I'm just a regular guy out for a ride through the streets.
Yeah.
And then right after we arrived, I had some dirham from the UAE that I had to exchange. So we said, all right, let's go downtown. So we went down to exchange money, and we just pull up on a street corner, and these 4 gentlemen are sitting there, and they have all these bales in front of them, and I didn't know what it was, I jump out, and it's stacks of money. I mean, just stacks. I said, what are we doing? I give them my money, and there's no weapons to protect it, no nothing. And the one gentleman we were dealing with was probably a 25-year-old kid, just sitting there with his feet propped up on a stack of money. It was unbelievable. I thought that was one of the most memorable experiences I'll ever have.
What about you?
Oh my God, same thing, same experience. I've never seen, I live in New York City, I live in London, I live in Kuwait, I have never seen the money sitting outside
That's right.
a sidewalk. And as a diaspora, I work with Riale, I help Riale when he come to, in London, I was his security detail. And I think every president in Somaliland, they did a wonderful job. It started from Egal, next to, and what's the other
Riale.
president? Huh?
Riale?
Riale. No, there's another president was, and he did a good job too. What's his name was?
Ahmed Silani, our current president.
No, Colonel Ahmed Silanyo. He made the difference. He made the
did.
difference.
Yes, he
He
did.
made the difference, and people are much better off. And now they was before. They're building a road. They're building a road right now. We see people are building their own road. See my own eyes. Are raising money. I have been involved in fundraising too. So only thing I'm going to tell Somaliland, you have a peace. I work Afghanistan 4 years. I have not seen peace. I work Iraq. I have not seen peace. The peace I see today, that's what we want to keep. I'm going to tell the opposition, we need to keep everything internal. And internal, we can clean our house. Because if you take your problem to Europe, to the state, we will now be recognized. So that's one of the advice I'm giving our opposition. They need to keep that way, because I have never seen the Cormier party go into a board and talk about Somaliland. I have seen now, it's not going to help. So we need to come together as a Somaliland one
To get the
and
recognition.
fight for this country, yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
And speaking about the recognition, I've heard you've already worked at Sudan. You've
Yes.
helped them get the recognition. South Sudan. What route do you think Somaliland should go in order to get the recognition?
I think that right now, the current president is doing a fantastic job, and I think he has his government and the country itself on the right track. I think the problem is outside the country, it's not within the country. I think in that case, I mean, you have the British, who used to be the colonists for this area. You've got the United States, the #1 democracy in the world, not recognizing. The African Union, your own neighbors, not want to recognize.
Why do you think
I
they're
don't
not
know.
recognizing?
I was trying to think of the reason, and I don't really have a valid one, because when you look at the South Sudan, who had gone through a very severe civil war, and they were recognized almost immediately afterwards. Eritrea was recognized. Why? You go into Europe, the Kosovos. Why were they recognized? Somaliland itself was undergoing a genocide at the hands of Somalia back in the 80s.
1988.
Yes, 88 primarily. 91, you redeclared that you were going to be independent. All right, well, here we are 22 years later. Where's the recognition? All right, they're not going to give it to you for whatever reason. So what happens now? We press on the way we're doing. Look at what you got. They just released their 4th oil lease out to Janelle in the last 4 weeks. So the oil will start flowing in. Your country, the economy is going to start coming up. You have all the resources in the world. I mean, from your exports of cattle to the henna. Matter of fact, I just read a very good article about the young lady that has a new business with henna, and she's exporting to a worldwide company. That's fantastic. You have precious stones up in the mountains of Mozambique. Was it the Mozambique Plateau? Is that correct? You have them there that just need to be harvested. Just having to bring in people in to understand that and be able to do that properly. I think you guys are on the right track. I think it's a fantastic country. It's a very young country, and I think it's going to be a very leading leader of Africa once it's all said and done. I think in another 5 years, when that oil revenue starts and the improvements begin, you are going to be in very good shape.
Definitely. When you go back, I know you're going back tomorrow, both of you. What are you going to tell the people out there about Somaliland, and what are you willing to do to help us get the recognition?
I'm willing to come here and work. I'd like to do that very much. I would do anything to help in any way I can. My efforts and my experiences, I think, would enhance the efforts that are currently undergoing. I know I've spoken to a couple of the ministers, and I'd really like to be given the opportunity to help them to improve on whatever systems they currently have.
Okay, Mustafa, when you go back there and they ask you, how's your country like? What are you going to tell the people?
I'm only here 7 days, so I'm coming back.
You should.
I will come back. When I leave Afghanistan, I'm coming back home. And I'm going to talk to the diaspora, the people in the United States, people in Europe, people in the Middle East. That's the problem. These people, they don't have a problem. These people are the best people I ever met in my life. They're good people. The government is good. The system is good. People are talking. People are saying anything they want. So I think the problem is the media. The problem is in the state diaspora. We create that problem. Only thing we need to do is come together, one fight. We're going to win Somaliland.
We will. Mr. Andy, as a conclusion, I want you to look at the camera and tell the people of Somaliland, I don't know, one last thing.
What they have.
Yeah. What do you want to say to them?
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for the warm welcome to the people of Somaliland. I'd like to send a special greeting to the President and his wife and his cabinet. Thank you for all your efforts. You can see the positive improvements on your country since 1988, if you will. But I think the majority of those improvements have come at your hands in the last few years. I think you're on the right track for what is best for your people, and I wish you all of God's best blessings.
Okay, everyone, that was Andy Corbett and Mustafa Hassan on an exclusive interview with the English section of Somaliland National Television. And I'm Morris Mohammed. Thank you for watching, and good night.